Just give me one more minute here.
That's it.
30 more seconds for me.
Great.
All right, and we are ready.
Okay, thank you, Olivia. Welcome everybody to the Tuesday, April 7th, Burlington, Vermont COVID-19 update. I'm joined here in the DPW building by Deputy Chief John Murad, who we'll hear from in a few minutes about the city's attempts to enforce the stay-home order and how that went this past weekend. We'll also be hearing from some other partners, but where I'd like to start, as Olivia's pulling up here, is just a quick summary of the State of the City address that I gave yesterday. So this is something that the Mayor of Burlington is required by our charter to do every year on the first Monday in April. And I've given 9 of these speeches now. And last night's, though, in many ways was completely unique. It was something that we did virtually in one of these Zoom calls, as opposed to having a big public meeting in Contoy's auditorium. There, instead of hundreds of people being in the room, we had hundreds of people tuning in online. This is really the first time that I've devoted an entire State of the City address to one topic. I essentially spoke only about the city's response to the COVID-19 virus. The State of the City, one thing that marks all of these speeches, whether it's a State of the Union or a State of the State or a State of the City, is a declaration of what is the state of the city. And the way I framed it last night is that the State of the City is a state of emergency. And I mean that in the sense that literally we are under a declared emergency from the governor and from me. It is also dominating everything that we do as a community and certainly as city government. I wanted to give people an update of how we were doing with that emergency. And I wanted to convey, I'm trying to convey to you here, two kind of emotions that are somewhat competing. This is a time of tragedy. This is a very challenging time. It's a time of financial loss. So many of us have uncertainty about our jobs, our homes, our older loved ones. So many of the people in this community we have lost 9 Burlingtonians already, and we know that dozens more are currently battling against the virus. So it is certainly a moment of really unprecedented loss in any time in my memory. At the same time, I do want people to understand that the social distancing efforts that we are making, that the governor and I have demanded in various orders, but that really rely on you, the people of Burlington, the people of Vermont, to carry out and to succeed with. Those efforts are working. We are flattening the curve. There is no doubt about it right now that we are seeing numbers after several weeks of this that are way below what we would have seen had these measures not taken place. And I want you to know that it's working because we have to keep it up. We face probably a month to 2 months more of needing to continue these efforts, these extreme social distancing efforts, for us to get out of this stay home posture. We are going to get there faster the better we do. The less new infections there are, the quicker we're going to get out of this posture. I think it's important that people understand that we are succeeding in working together, because we're going to have to do a whole lot more of it, not just in the next 1 to 2 months, but the next 12 to 18 months. We very likely are facing a situation where we can't go back to life as normal. Until we have a virus or very widespread therapies, we are going to be in this ongoing battle against the virus. Hopefully it's not going to be like it is now. Beyond that 1 to 2 months, we are going to be able to reopen certain parts of the community, but we're going to have to be vigilant. We're going to have to be working together. We're going to have to continue all the hygiene techniques and all the changes in our lifestyle that we've incorporated into our lives, and more in the weeks ahead. We're all going to have to start covering our faces, as the governor and even the president has now acknowledged that face masks are going to be an important part of this going forward. So I'm not going to recap all of that here. It is in the speech, but the big point is we've got a long road ahead, a long fight ahead. We can win it. That's what the message of the last month should be, but it's going to take continuing to work together for quite some time still. I'm going to talk more on the screen there. You can see that we kind of think of this stay home phase as phase one. The stage two is this new posture when we come out of the stay home order in a strategic and phased way. There are going to be a whole bunch of new capacities that we as local and state government are going to need to have in place. So one of the things that I'm really focused on right now is that we need to use this time well. This 1 to 2 months before we come out of the stay-home order, we need to use that time to build up these capacities. And I'm going to be talking a lot more about that at these briefings in the weeks ahead. So that'll be something to come back and discuss. I do hope the people of Burlington understand just how thoroughly we have reorganized city government to respond to this emergency, to meet the challenge that COVID-19 puts upon us. And I talked a little bit about that reorganization last night. If you've been part of these briefings, you've been hearing the updates about the Resource and Recovery Center, which has about 20 city employees in that new center, actually working and booking their time to that center that didn't exist until 2 weeks ago. You know that we have this analytics team that is helping us identify and push out new strategies. You are aware of this Emergency Operations Center where Chief Locke really helps coordinate and manage all of the city decision-making that we have had to do during this emergency. So I spoke some to that last night, and then I spoke to these 3 major initiatives that we are pursuing as a city government. A community masking initiative, which you heard about here in these briefings last week, and we'll have updates for over the course of this week. We're trying to mask all essential workers as quickly as possible. And I announced a new goal last night that we are going to try to produce tens of thousands of these masks so that every Burlingtonian who wants one of these high quality face masks is able to get one from the city by the time we can go into stage 2. So more about that later in the week. The Resource and Recovery Center will have a brief update on later today. And then what I did want to move to next is this property tax extension, which was is a $20 million initiative that the City Council took action on last night. And we'll have Catherine Shad in a moment, our Chief Administrative Officer, to help me lay that out for you so that people can start understanding what options they have with their June 12th property tax payment. Just to finish out the summary of the speech very quickly, I made the point last night, and there'll be detail about this too in the weeks ahead, that this emergency is going to mean we're going to have to cut back in certain areas. We're not going to be able to pursue everything we thought we were going to over the course of 2020 and 2021. There are possibly some things we are going to kind of have to let go of for some time. We're going to face real financial challenges ourselves. But we're not going to delay, we're not going to defer our commitment to Burlington's major core values. And those include the values of inclusion and belonging, caring for each other, and addressing our other declared emergency, the climate emergency. And we spoke in the speech, I spoke a little bit about each of those, and the climate crisis topic actually is going to become part of our presentation today. So, Olivia, I think we are going to go straight into that. And let me say just a little bit more, and then I'm going to be joined by Darren Springer, who's the general manager of the Burlington Electric Department, and who has helped author this Burlington Green Stimulus Package. So this is what I mean by we're not going to stop working on the climate emergency, even while we're battling COVID-19. In fact, wherever possible, we're going to pursue strategies that advance our progress in both of these crises. And the Green Stimulus Package is an example of that. Essentially, what we're going to do is find a way to repurpose, accelerate, redirect, expand a variety of incentive programs that are part of our net zero energy city strategy. We are going to amp those up so that when we do reopen, when we get to stage 2 and some people are able to start going back to work and the economy starts to function again, that there's going to be, there's going to be some pent up demand at that point. You're going to have people eager to work. You're going to have projects that need to go forward. You're going to have more things will have broken in this time. And we see this as an opportunity to when the world kind of comes back together here, that and people are starting to make decisions about their homes and about their vehicles. And I know, and I say this very conscious of the fact that, going back to where I started, there's this great uncertainty right now about our homes and about our jobs and how we're going to have any resources to invest in anything. But there is help from the federal government coming. There is going to be a path forward here, and we are going to see the economy start to turn on again. And when it does, we want to make sure that people are making choices as much as possible that move us towards that net zero energy city goal that we've been talking about so much over the last couple of years, and making progress on towards the last couple of years. So with that, Darren, are you with us now? I cannot hear Darren.
Darren, it does look like you're unmuted, but I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mayor. Thank you for including this in the briefing today. I did just want to let people know that we've taken obviously several immediate steps for relief to help our customers. That includes suspending disconnections for non-payment. That includes waiving late fees for non-payment. And that also includes, as of today, that every customer who requests and is in good standing can receive a budget payment plan so that they can have a level electric bill for 12 months as opposed to a fluctuating bill. So if anybody needs assistance with that, they can contact our customer care team at 865-7300. In terms of the green stimulus package, what we're looking at here is redirecting particularly existing energy efficiency funds that we have towards projects that, when public health allows for the economy to reopen, could provide a boost and particularly help our low and moderate income customers, help renters and homeowners, help small businesses and nonprofits be able to save energy, save money, and help reduce carbon emissions. We have a site now that folks can go to at burlingtonelectric.com/green stimulus to get additional information. I'm going to highlight just a few of the initiatives that we'll be seeking regulatory approval for in the coming days and weeks ahead. One of which is we're going to work with our partners at Champlain Valley Weatherization Services and at VGS to seek to boost funding for low and moderate income rental units to be able to be weatherized in Burlington. We're looking forward to being able to partner in that manner to support weatherization of rental housing. We also are looking forward to partnering with VGS to restart our Energy Champ multifamily weatherization program, which previously had provided 75% weatherization incentive for all different types of multifamily buildings throughout the city, and made it very attractive for property owners to pursue weatherization for those buildings. We're looking at restarting that. Another item that we are proposing is to boost our cold climate heat pump incentives by approximately 60%. To go from a current maximum today of $2,200 to a new maximum of $3,500. And there will be a range of incentives there depending on what type of heat pump system you're looking to install. For an average customer putting in a single heat pump unit, our new incentives might help cover up to 75% of the cost of that installation. Another item that we're going to be looking at is boosting our EV incentives and our plug-in hybrid incentives for a limited time from $1,200 today for a purchase or lease of a new electric vehicle or plug-in hybrid to $1,500 for a plug-in and $1,800 for an EV. So boosting by a third our EV incentives for a period of time to help folks be able to even better afford those in combination with state rebates and federal incentives that continue to be available. We're also looking at launching a new cash for appliances program that would support residential homes and also multifamily buildings where the tenant pays the electric bill in recycling older inefficient appliances such as refrigerators, freezers, clothes washers, and dryers, and replacing those with modern, efficient appliances that can help save energy and save money. We're also going to be helping support the cost of installing new energy efficient heating and cooling systems when current systems fail in the coming months, because we know it's going to be challenging for folks who have a heating or cooling system or another equipment system that fails in the coming months. We're going to be providing support for that. And one other item I'll just mention now is we're looking at updating our on-bill financing program that provides financing for small businesses and nonprofit organizations to make energy improvements. We're looking at providing zero interest loans for up to 7-year terms and including energy savings guarantees to remove risk so that our small businesses and nonprofits who need support in making an energy upgrade can do so with cash flow neutral or positive results from day one with those financing programs. So additional information will be available on the website that's up on the screen now, and we'll be moving a number of these initiatives through the regulatory process in the coming days and weeks.
Excellent, Darren. Great summary, great work. Thank you to you and your team for moving so quickly to respond to this moment and find a way to really put hundreds of thousands of dollars to use in a way that, again, will move us towards our net zero energy C goals, will help respond to the climate emergency, but will also, when we're trying to get the economy jump-started again, coming out of this unprecedented shutdown, to have these additional, essentially, subsidies and resources in the economy are going to help bring us back quickly as well. So great work there, and you'll keep us posted as we move forward in this, I'm sure. And thank you also for the broader role BED is doing to support the Resource and Recovery Center with some of your customer service employees really playing a key role in helping us provide this one-on-one support. So we're going to keep moving now. Darren will stay with us in case there's questions at the end about the green stimulus plan. Let's talk next about our property tax extension, essentially postponement. The council took nearly unanimous action last night. One of the two votes was unanimous. Don't quite understand why they weren't both unanimous, but the basically the what that vote does is it says that Burlingtonians can count on the fact that if they have been impacted, if you have been hit by this financial storm that has come with the COVID-19 virus, you are going to be able to defer your June 12th payment until August 12th without any penalties or interest. Typically, the city would charge significant interest and penalties for that period. We're not going to do that. The way it's not, it takes quite a significant action on the city to be able to offer this to people. What we're essentially going to do is we're going to have to go out and put in place, this is what we got authority for last night, the ability to have a tax anticipation note. It's essentially short-term borrowing against these future tax payments. We need to do that borrowing so that we can make a big payment to the school district at the end of June, and so that we can fund other municipal operations. We're able to do this borrowing at quite low cost, given the economy right now, given the fact that our credit rating is quite strong right now. And we're able to do it at quite low risk because these taxes will ultimately have to be paid, and the city, is protected there. I've got Catherine Shad, who's our Chief Administrative Officer. She's been with us. When was your first day, Catherine? It was just weeks ago.
Mid-February.
Mid-February. So basically a month from Catherine's arrival to being thrust into this, I think it's fair to call this an unprecedented emergency in many ways. Thank you for your leadership and your work with us already. Catherine comes with a background of having done international development and dealt in those roles with with a variety of international emergencies, and she's taken the reins of our finances and is doing a great job with it. Catherine, maybe you could lay out in a little bit more detail how this program is going to work.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thanks, Mayor. So as everyone knows, June payments for property taxes are due on the 12th. Those payments do cover both municipal tax and education tax. What City Council approved last night is that taxpayers can apply to waive penalties and interest if they are severely impacted by COVID. It was very important to the administration and also to City Council that this be inclusive. That said, we also rely on property taxes for a large share of our revenue. It's about 58% of the city revenue. So we do expect people who can pay their property taxes to do so that the city can keep running. But we also understand that there are people who are really in need. And so we wanted to make it easy for those people to qualify. So it's taxpayers who are unemployed, who are furloughed, or who have otherwise lost 30% or more of their gross income since March 1st because of the crisis. It is also taxpayers whose income is 80% or less of the area median income. That is a measurement that CEDO uses for some of their other programs. And if you have questions about that, it is explained on their website. And it is also taxpayers who own or operate a business and can demonstrate significant financial impact. That one's a little bit more flexible, but an example would be a loss of 30% or more in gross revenue since March 1st. We want to make it easy for taxpayers to apply for this. It will be kind of a one-page application on the RRC website. You can expect that in the coming weeks. But if you want to, if you didn't catch everything I said, you want the details of who is eligible, that is already up on the RRC webpage. Thanks to those folks. If you go onto their webpage under economic disruption resources, it's the first box there. So you can find that. And another thing I did want to mention for people who are not property taxpayers, but who are tenants, something that was also important both to the mayor and city council was that the relief be passed on to tenants. So something that was in the resolution that we are implementing is if a property owner has received this relief, they must inform their tenants in writing that they have received the relief, and they can't charge penalties or interest on late rent. And they also cannot evict because of non-payment. They will also be those taxpayers who receive relief will be listed on the website of the city, so that tenants can easily find that information, and if enforcement is needed, they can contact the city for that.
Great.
Any other questions, Mayor, you had on that?
I don't think so, Catherine. I think that's a great summary. That final point is one I just want to amplify here, that the way this program is structured, and that is that if a property owner does receive this benefit, they need essentially to pass that benefit on to any residential or commercial tenants that are on that property, that are part of that property. And I think the other kind of big picture point I just want to make here is, why are we doing this? What's the value of this? And here's how I see it. There's obviously some financial benefit to people being able to take this extra time and not having to pay interest or penalties. So there's some like direct benefit there, but in some ways I think the larger significance of this is that this plan, the city going out and doing this up to $20 million of borrowing, gives people time to figure out how to respond to this financial storm. Basically, people are going to have 5 months from when mid-March, when this emergency started to hit and started to have this financial impact. It's going to be 5 months from there till these tax payments are due in August. And in that 5 months, a lot's going to happen. We are going to get millions of dollars here at the Vermont level from the federal government. And we're going to make sure that that money gets out to people in the form of unemployment insurance, in the form of a variety of programs that help small businesses. And those get, that time between now and when this substantial payment is necessary to the city, our hope and their thought is that's going to be really valuable to people and helping them figure their way out here and get through this. We'll also start to know more about the duration of this emergency and whether further relief efforts are going to be necessary. So hopefully that time is something that our property taxpayers can use to their benefit. We may be able to go beyond there. If you watched the council meeting last night, there were numerous councilors who gave voice to the fact of wanting to, we expect this is going to be a really hard time for a significant period for many of our constituents. And so we would we may well find a way to do even more than just simply give people this additional 2 months. That's something we're going to be working on in the weeks ahead. And we'll have more to say on that. People shouldn't count on more than that now. At this point, basically, people should understand this program is simply saying, instead of making your June 12th payment, you can make that payment in June, that June payment, you can make that payment and your August payment at the August deadline. That is what last night's action meant. If we can do better than that as a city, if we can go even further without putting the city in some kind of difficult financial position that would threaten the city, I know I and many councilors want to do that. So stay tuned on that. Understand what the action so far allows, and hopefully, again, people will now be able to start using this time to map out the coming months. With that, we jumped over those last couple bullets quickly. Was there anything else in there, Olivia, that we jumped over quickly that we didn't hit?
Mayor, could I make one final point?
Yes.
Just to note, I know there was some confusion last night about the $20 million. So just to make a point on that is the maximum amount that we would take. And the tax anticipation note, which is kind of the technical term for the borrowing that was approved last night by the City Council, is short-term borrowing. It will be paid off by August 12th. And it is a drawdown facility. So we are allowed to take up to $20 million, but if we don't need to take that much, we won't take that much. So I just want to explain that to the taxpayers who are listening.
Yeah, great. And I think let's just say a little bit more about that too, so people understand how we're really, even while dealing with this emergency, we're quite cost conscious. We are able to do that short-term borrowing at a very low cost right now with the widespread, basically in response to this emergency. The Federal Reserve has made the cost of borrowing very inexpensive. So if we had to draw down that entire amount for the full 2 months, the total cost would be about $46,000, and it will, as Catherine's saying, if we don't use that maximum amount, it will be less. And again, this I think is low risk borrowing on the city's part, because we know that these tax dollars ultimately will need to be paid, and that's what we're borrowing against. So. Okay, I think that's the property tax part of today's discussion. Next, we're going to move to the enforcement of the stay home order. And people may remember that on Friday, we had a conversation with Deputy Chief Murad, who is again here with me in the room, and we talked about the fact that we were adding a tool to the city's ability to enforce the stay home order. Up until Friday, all of those efforts were educational and voluntary, but on Friday, the Attorney General did issue a directive about what localities could do to enforce the governor's order. And we welcome that, and had actually been pushing for that, because we did have not many, but a small number of people within the community that were willfully not complying with the order and putting themselves at risk and potentially others at risk. And we thought something had to be done with that. And we heard from many constituents who are calling for us to do something about it. And so this new authority was put in place on Friday. I issued an emergency regulation on Friday night, laying out what police, how this civil ticketing process actually would work, what this new authority the police would now have. And Deputy Chief Murad here is here to discuss how that unfolded over the course of this weekend and yesterday. So welcome, Deputy Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I'm very happy to say that the way it unfolded is that we did not have to use this new tool. Frankly, the cooperation that we've been seeing from our neighbors is stellar. It's terrific. Everyone is really understanding that they have to pull together in order to make this work. This is a situation in which stay at home, stay safe is something that all of us have to do in order for it to have the effects that it's supposed to have. We have been able to educate and to talk to people in order to encourage them to obey these rules and to work together. In some instances, we have taken away the venue by which people were otherwise defying the order, and that was done by parks, removing rims from several basketball courts around the city. We are talking regularly with people at playgrounds and parks. Playgrounds have all been taped off, but at playgrounds and parks and ball courts and the skate park, in order to encourage those folks to recognize that if they work together, they can continue to have this outlet for the cooped up energy that so many of us are feeling, and have that outlet in a way that nevertheless maintains safety. The governor's order makes it clear that there are legitimate reasons to leave the home. Stay home, stay safe is not a lockdown order. It allows for people to leave the home for groceries. It allows the people to leave the home for exercise, medicine, to care for others. But what it doesn't allow people to do is go out and simply to sit in public places in close proximity to others who are not in their households, sometimes to conduct other unlawful activities such as drinking in public or using substances, but being in places where they continue to be a vector for the spread of the disease. And that need to address folks who are doing those kinds of activities willingly, willfully, and with knowledge of the fact that it's unlawful was the rationale behind creating this emergency power that you did, sir, for the municipal enforcement tool. It does not mean that we are pulling over vehicles. It does not mean that we are stopping people walking down the street. It does not mean that we are going into places where people may be doing activities such as sports or exercise that are not entirely in keeping with the kinds of exercise that are not going to facilitate the spread, but rather exercises involving people using the same ball or exercises that involve people being in close proximity. It does not mean that we are going into those and enforcing in those situations. We are educating in those situations first. We are speaking to those folks. It's not just the police, it's parks employees as well. And really trying to make certain that everyone has a full understanding of why we are doing these things and why we are asking everyone to pull together in order to have this impact. And I'm happy to say again that we did not issue any of those kinds of tickets this weekend. I myself was out this weekend. I had some folks who were on basketball courts, one of the few that still had rims up at the time, asked those individuals to leave, got voluntary compliance, and understanding but begrudging voluntary compliance, and we're able to make those kinds of changes and those improvements for everyone's safety occur without going to the enforcement tool.
Good, good. All right, excellent. Well, let's hope it stays that way. And thank you, everyone, for making that possible. Again, a point that I just hope everyone understands when they, I know these sound, these sound tough. These rules, they sound harsh. And there's no doubt this is disrupting the way we want to live our life here in Burlington. The thing that I hope everyone recognizes, again, I've said this before today, but is that the better we do this social distancing now, the more effective we are at it, the more we're going to drive down the rate of new infections, and the sooner then we will be able to start lifting these regulations and moving back to something closer, starting to add these parts of our life that we value back in. We have to drive the numbers down first to get there. So I think, Olivia, we're going to move now forward to a couple more items, and we'll open this up for questions. The CARES Act, this is the big $2 trillion federal relief package that was passed, I think it's 2 weeks ago now, by Congress. Some of these days run together a little bit, but it's been a couple weeks now, I believe, since this passed, and it is a huge piece of legislation with a lot of detail and in a lot of different programs, and many people are scrambling to try to understand it and understand what it means for Burlingtonians, for Vermonters. I wanted to announce here that tomorrow the city's COVID-19 Resource and Recovery Center is going to host a expert panel on a webinar for all Burlington employers and for small businesses and nonprofits. So, you know, we've talked a little bit about the CARES Act here. This is basically a whole extended panel with experts on it, where people are going to get into much more of the details than we've been able to in this forum. And I believe there's going to be an opportunity to ask questions to these experts as well. Do we have Olivia? Yeah, so the experts are three legal, accounting, and banking professionals who are so kind of coming at the CARES Act from those different perspectives, and they will share information about unemployment, about paycheck protection program, loans, and more. This paycheck protection program really is quite, it's unlike anything I've seen from the federal government before. It's essentially the federal government will give your business, if you have less than 500 employees, up to a $10 million loan, and then forgive all of that loan, essentially make it a grant, so long as you meet certain rules and conditions. The main rule being that you keep people on you keep employing as many people now as you did before the emergency, and keep paying them. So details about that kind of that program, those programs will be available. You can find out more about the event details by going to that website there on the page, burlingtonvt.gov/resources. That is the Resource and Recovery general page, which if you're looking for any type of help in this emergency, that should be your first stop. Is that it, Olivia, or do we have one more thing? Okay, oh, right. So the small business loan program, we wanted to give an update on this as well. This, we announced last week that we were repurposing $110,000 of federal dollars that we had and taking them out of the loan programs, putting them into a grant program for local small businesses. And the deadline for that was, if you were interested in this essentially grant program, was April 5th. So a couple of days ago, we got 172 completed applications. We have a team, so that's 172 different businesses that are seeking these grants. We have a team that is going through those applications, making sure that all the businesses, the applicants met the rules of this program. This is federal money that does come with some requirements that the money be for businesses that have low and moderate income employees. And so this business, basically the application has to establish that that the business is trying to retain those jobs. So it is going to take a little bit of time, but the goal is for this money to be some of the first money that hits the street, first relief effort that starts actually going out into people's pockets since this emergency began. Our goal is for those first checks to go out by next week, and then have all of those checks that we can fund with this program out by the end of the month and in the pockets of Burlingtonians and Burlington businesses. And a last point about the Resource and Recovery Center, that's the RRC we've mentioned several times here. Just wanted to put up this photo. These are, this is an example of a banner that's currently hanging in City Market. And this is one of, I believe, 10 banners that has been printed and is hanging in various parts of the city. The banners appear in multiple languages, 5 languages. And we're really trying to get the word out through these banners to people who maybe haven't seen all the digital promotion of the Resource and Recovery Center like this program. We're trying to make sure that people are aware of the RRC through other ways as well. You'll also start to see newspaper advertisements and other types of advertisements so that we're doing everything we can to make sure people know about this resource, know that the city is here to help, and get in touch as they need help as this emergency evolves. I think that is the end of the presentation, and we'd be happy to take questions if there are any. We're all set here in the studio. Olivia, Jordan's left the room here. She's trying to deal with something else. So are you able to have questions?
Yes, I do have some. And for members of the media who are tuned in, reminder to, you can submit questions by emailing me. So the first question, and Darren, this might be a question for you, if you can come back on. First question is from Aidan Quigley at VT Digger, and that's, can you describe the funding sources for the Green Stimulus Plan in more detail, and how much will be spent on the programs?
Okay. Yes, so in terms of the funding, what we're looking at primarily is taking a portion of our existing energy efficiency funds. Burlington Electric is the energy efficiency provider for Burlington, the same way that Efficiency Vermont is for the rest of the state, and looking at redirecting a portion of those funds that are unexpended currently in fiscal or calendar 20 and redirecting them to support these boosted programs. We're also exploring some of our other funding sources, such as our Tier 3 program, but the primary funding would be from the energy efficiency utility. And as the mayor's referenced, we're looking at being able to redirect with regulatory approval pending. We'd be looking at several $100,000 in funds that could be redirected potentially.
And then another question from Aiden, and that one is, any update on the investigation into Airbnb mentioned last week?
I think that's for me. I got your message, Aiden. So yes, I am going to be issuing an update about that, a press release to property owners in the city reminding them of Addendum 7 to the governor's executive order. And insofar as outreach, that's going to be the investigation rather, it's really just a matter of monitoring. It's a matter of collecting any incoming complaints about people who may be misusing Airbnb or other kinds of lodgings in defiance of Addendum 7 to the governor's executive order. We don't currently have any such complaints to my knowledge, but we do have a detective task to that in order to liaise with the state and report or take action as necessary.
And that's all we have for questions.
Okay, great. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. We'll be back again tomorrow at 2 o'clock is the plan. And stay safe in the meantime. We'll see you all again soon. Thanks.